Yoga injuries, the different types, the common causes, and how to avoid them. Let's jump right in. There are many different types of injuries that could occur during yoga practice. Some of the more common ones in my experience typically involve the wrists, the shoulders, the low back, the hamstrings, and the knees. And the level of severity of an injury will typically depend on the nature of the pose itself and your level of preparedness and mentality going into it. And that basically means a few key things. First, always warm up before practice. I know it sounds like an obvious, it sounds like a given, but the temptation can be there at times, especially if you're short on time, to skip right past it, get straight to the meat of the session itself. Next, listen to your body. Don't ignore pain. Pain is there to tell you something is wrong. Even extended discomfort can lead to injury. Don't try to force anything either during your yoga poses, especially the stretches. Always relax into things, ease into them. And also, don't override your own instincts to follow the advice of your instructor. The instructor doesn't know your body as well as you do. And finally, make sure that you know what the correct form and alignment should be for any yoga pose you attempt. And then you have to ask yourself, am I capable of achieving this alignment with my current flexibility and strength and balance? Because if you're not, that means you need to find a modification or adjustment to the pose that works better for you. So with that said, now let's take a look at how we can avoid some of these potential injuries with some of the more common yoga poses. For plank pose, we want to keep our body straight like a pencil. Our hips shouldn't be drooping towards the floor or raised too high. Our shoulders should be rolled back, not forwards. Elbows should be locked, and our palms facing down, shoulder width apart. In Cobra pose, just like with plank, make sure your shoulders are rolled back, not forwards, and they're relaxed. Any part of your body that doesn't need to be involved in the movement should be relaxed. In Chaturanga, the same principles from plank apply. Make sure your body is straight, your shoulders are rolled back and relaxed, and your abs are engaged. In downward facing dog, there are a few things we want to keep in mind. First, make sure your weight is evenly distributed between your arms and your legs. Shifting too much weight towards your arms is what can cause a wrist injury, so we want to avoid that. Elbows should be locked, your neck should be in line with your torso and relaxed. Your shoulders should also be loose. Your low back and your spine should be lengthened as much as possible, and your knees should also be as straight as possible. A little bend is okay. If you have tight legs, you want to make sure that you are doing stretches to loosen them outside of this pose so that you can attain a more stable and comfortable position. If you're going for a seated forward bend, you want to keep your knees locked and your spine straight. The primary goal of this asana or pose is to stretch the hamstrings. In cases like mine where you have very tight legs, I suggest you change the angle of this posture, and that's by using a chair. By placing one knee on top for support, I can get back into the same position I was in on the floor, and this time apply a hamstring stretch without compromising or bending my back. Because of the orientation, I'm also benefiting from the effect of gravity to help deepen that stretch. When attempting crow pose, two things to keep in mind. First, keeping a pillow in front of you, definitely a good insurance policy. You don't want to tip forward and hit your head on the hard floor. You might also want to deliberately try tipping your head while the pillow's there, just so you can shake your fear of losing your balance. And secondly, before you lift off, you want to make sure you have enough upper body and arm strength, because otherwise a lot of that force is going to be absorbed mainly by your wrists, and that's likely going to cause you a wrist injury. In order to build up to that strength, you could try some crow progressions. For example, you could alternate between lifting one leg off the floor and then the other, or you could keep both of your legs on the floor and just practice shifting the center of gravity forwards and backwards between your upper body and your lower body. So that covers some of the more common poses you'll come across and what to watch out for in order to avoid injuring yourself in them. But like I said in the beginning of this video, having the correct mentality on its own is going to help avoid injury in the long run, because You really need to be patient above all. You need to make sure that you do the little things right, like listening to your body, warming up before every practice, making sure that you're not overdoing things. Don't force a pose. Don't force a stretch. Let go of your ego. Don't try to emulate your instructor or somebody else in your class that you feel like, man, they really got this down, but I don't. The results will come if you're patient, but if you try to force things, that's how people end up injuring themselves. With that said, I hope this video has shed some light on yoga injuries and how to avoid them. And if you found this video helpful, hit like, subscribe, comment, stay tuned for more videos. Have a safe and enriching practice, and I will see you next time. Namaste.